Okay, everybody. Tonight we have Miss Robyn Haynes. She has, I guess, you could say, lived with and been with Bigfoot most of her life since she was a little girl up to an adult, up to now. She's still dealing with the Bigfoot. Um, Thank you, for Robyn, for coming on tonight and
Yeah,
dealing with my crazy schedule.
because mine doesn't go much easier, so it works out.
Okay, how's the family and the kids, the grandkids?
Good. My granddaughter's out playing with grandpa right now in the other room, so it worked out good.
That's cute.
I said, "You're in charge of her. If you can wrangle her, she's yours."
That's cute. Okay, let's get right into it. So, um, we actually I'm gonna let everybody know we actually had an episode before, but unfortunately, my computer cut off. It was real messed up.
I can hardly hear you.
You can hold on. Let me.
It,
I thought that might happen. How do I sound now?
yep, now I can.
Okay.
Now it's quiet.
All right. So we had an episode last week. It got cut. The My computer, my Apple computer decided it wanted to shut down before I did.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll get right into it. So Robyn, how did everything start? I know we've talked, but we have to.
I actually wasn't. I've never in my life set out to find a Sasquatch or Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a little kid. I would go outside, I'd play, I'd ride my bike. I used to see faces looking in the window, and I just assumed everybody did. By the time I brought anybody to look back, that nobody saw anything. But I would go ride my bike, and they would come out where the woods was at. We had this one area, like 3 doors down from my house, that was all wooded, and they had dirt mounds, and you could go down there and you could dig in the dirt, make castles. You could do whatever you want to do. It was all wooded back there. And they would just come out.
Okay.
And it just seemed to be the pattern as I grew up everywhere I went.
Okay. When what was let's see, what was your first interaction with them where you could actually interact with them, like talk or whatever?
To talk to them? I always did. I started mind speaking when I was old enough probably old enough to talk. I just never knew that I couldn't do it. I just did it. They initiated it. I didn't, because I didn't know what it was. And I did not realize for quite some time that not everybody experienced that. Mm-hmm. It was very odd to me because I didn't know. And so it just always happened. It wasn't like it was a planned thing. It was just the way it was. I would talk to them. They would either talk back in their language, or they would talk back in my language, or they would mind speak, and I was able to get it either way. Then they started showing me images in my mind. Then they started projecting the emotions so I could feel what they felt for me, or if they were fearful or whatever. So that was just, and all of that is a part of mind speak. Mind speak does all of those things. And so I just always had it. It was never anything I sought out. It just happened to me.
Okay. Now, when you said speak, so I'm assuming that you all could speak verbally and also through the mind speak?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What type of verbally, how would they sound? Would it sound like us or something different or something?
No, it's very guttural. To begin with, their vocal range is much higher and much lower than what we can do.
Right.
Like they just have this wider range, but where we speak from, like up in here, mm-hmm. Theirs comes from the chest and the clavicle down mm-hmm. down low. So it's more grumbled. Yeah, it's more grumbled. It's not as easy to speak. When they speak English, they speak it quicker than we do. Mm-hmm. I have had some that have spoke English to me and slowed it down just because I needed it to.
Okay.
More for my comfort than theirs.
Okay. Would you say is it more like a kind of like a deep, like real?
Yeah.
Really, I've heard them one time, and it was incredibly deep. I was like, oh, what is it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I have heard them like outside when they're talking to each other, and
right, that's crazy.
Where it would be really a higher pitch, but they do have that exceptional range.
Mm-hmm.
And they imitate everything. Like they can imitate your voice and sound exactly like you. When before I was married to my current husband, my ex-husband was out in the woods one day. He was hunting. And we had the backwoods where he would hunt, and then we had the front woods. And before he would hunt, I would always tell everybody, you know, who's ever here, there's going to be hunters back there. Go to the front woods because you're safe there. Nobody is going to bother you there. That's, you know, not going to ever happen. So he went back there and he came in just absolutely livid. And I said, what are you so worked up about? And he said, I heard you back there. You're back there talking to me. You're scaring away all the deer. I said, I never left the house. He said, you absolutely did. I've known you for 15 years. I know what your voice sounds like. And the kids are like, Dad, she never left. And I was like, okay, we knew they imitated everything, but we didn't know they were that good on the voices. And then it happened a couple more times. So we got to the point with the kids where I was like, if you're outside, unless you physically see me, or even if you're in the house and I'm calling and you think I'm outside, if you don't physically see me, you do not go.
Right.
You know, you're not going to get grounded. You're not going to get in trouble. You just simply don't respond.
Right.
Because at this point, they're imitating everybody's voices. I mean, and that goes for you and your siblings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if your brother calls you, don't go. Just don't go. If you don't see somebody first so that you know it's legit, you don't go.
Mm-hmm. Did you when you said don't go? So do you feel that is there a certain point of trust where you go to that certain point, but then it's kind of like, well,
when it comes to kids, even more so with my own and my grandchildren, I don't trust anybody. It's just that simple. And you know, I just don't. I do know that primarily they would not hurt a child, but their culture is different than ours. 100% different. Our actions mean different than what it means to them.
Right.
So that's a problem. They see a child out walking around out in their backyard and they think, okay, this child is without a clan. There's nobody caring for it. We will go in and take this child because it's without a clan and we will raise it. Meanwhile, mom could be in the house making lunch or dinner or whatever, and the kids are perfectly fine. You know, then you have some that have lost children and are grieving. And that's a threat, you know, because they're not taking it because they're trying to be bad. I know of several cases they've taken a child thinking they were doing the right thing because their ways are not ours. I mean, it doesn't make them bad, but it's not ours. And just like we have pedophiles and you know, we have all these people that harm children, so do they. I mean, they are a human hybrid. The DNA proves it. So you know, there are going to be good ones. There are going to be bad ones. The good ones are a deeper love than what we are. They love harder. They love deeper. And it's just a pure love than what we experience normally. But the bad ones are lethal. You know, I mean, they really are. So, and you don't know who's walking through there.
You know, it's funny you said that when you said they're because they have their good and their bad like we do as humans. And that actually that stuck with me. I thought about that. Since you've told me, since we first talked, and it's really kind of been running and kind of haunted me a little bit, but I've actually thought about that. So do you feel that?
I keep getting the shine of my glasses. That's why I keep turning. All I can see is this light.
It's fine. I believe I understand. I get all kinds of crazy things in my office here. I
know. It's like I keep seeing all these reflections in my face. I'm like, gosh. It's scary enough on its own.
I don't believe I totally understand it. I got all craziness going on around me. But so do you when you first got the occurrences or the Bigfoot interaction, what state was that? I know, but let's tell everybody else.
Michigan. But I've also had the interaction in every state I've ever been in. I'm in South Carolina now, and they're still just as active as they were when I was in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Texas, Nebraska. You know, I mean, it really wherever I go, Indiana.
And because now you're in Carolina.
Yeah.
Which that's another spot. I don't know if it's as much as Michigan. Michigan's just has everything.
I'm going back. We're in the process of looking for property and stuff. We'll go back. I'm not staying here forever. I live on the sun and I don't care for it here. And God bless everybody that is here, but it's not my cup of tea.
I hear you. I know I spent some time in Carolina as a kid.
Yeah, it's living on the sun.
Really? Do you you said living on the sun? Like,
Yeah, because it's so hot. But there's such a difference here. Like, I was born and raised in Michigan. I'm used to being out in the woods. I'm used to the lakes. I'm used to doing, it's just everything here is so different. And for me, for other people, it's wonderful. For me, it's not different in a good way. So we came down here to spend time with the grandkids. We've accomplished that. We've also got other grandkids in Michigan, one in Canada. So we're going home.
okay.
We had hoped to be moved by May. That didn't happen due to health issues. So we're going. Like I said, I am flying to Michigan on the 14th to do some research there and then go visit family and the other kids and grandkids and look for property.
Okay. That sounds good. Well, I wish you all the best. I know how
you got to come visit.
Oh, definitely. I definitely am, because I have to come everywhere. I have to come. I am coming to Michigan. I have to come to Michigan. My cousin, he wants to do some bigfooting in Michigan, so I have to come there. So I'll be able to check you all out too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I finally just got him because he didn't want to be involved in it. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
It eventually hits when they're ready.
Right. So when you had the and like I said before, I just got so many questions.
I told you got to write them down, and then even after the show, you got to still stay in touch, and we'll go over them.
Right. When you had the interaction with the Bigfoot, let's go over something that a lot of people want to know. Let's go over we're getting to the deeper stuff, but let's go over the physical. Let's go over the description, because I know everybody wants to know that. Can you tell us how they appear or how they look?
Well, there's a misguided conception that they all look the same, and that is so incorrect, because just like we are all different, so are they. Mm-hmm. I've had some that do have, the crested head, the large brow ridge, the flat nose. I have another one that I'm very close to and have been for, since 2010. Mm-hmm. And his head is shaped completely like a human man. He does not have the big brow ridge. He does not have the flattened nose. He does not have the extra large lips. And, some of them have hair on their face. Some of them don't. They have every skin color just like we do. Mm-hmm. So the facial features are different. The body features are different. You can say that, a lot of them may look similar, just like we have people that look similar to us, right, but they do actually look different. Like when he came up, the one that I was referring to that looked more human, he came up and stood. He would just walked out in the middle, walked out of the woods and walked up to me. I was standing in the side of my yard. It was all open. Mm-hmm. And it was like 10 feet from me. Mm-hmm. And he stood there for 5-10 minutes, let me looking at him. And he was all white, but he had the Caucasian skin color. Mm-hmm. He had hair on his eyelids. There was no part on this boy's face that wasn't hair. And it was very, very short. It was only like an inch long. So very, very short. But then when it came to his hair, I don't know what they put in it. It looked like it was slicked back, like you would think like from Happy Days or something. Right, and right. The whole ear was hair inside the ear. Mm-hmm. He had a normal human nose, normal human mouth, normal human features on his face. It was just 100% hair. The neck was all hair. Once it got down to his shoulders, it got about 2.5 to 3 inches long. Mm-hmm. Over the rest of his body. He was all white, but then he had one little black strip that was on his upper left forearm. Mm-hmm. Just like you would think we would have a tattoo, that he had the strip of black hair.
Man, that's he probably kind of looked cool.
He did. And it really was shocking for me, because I've seen him with mixed colorations, mm-hmm, but I've never seen a white one that had this black strip. And the other thing I want to clear up with the colors is, just because they're white does not mean they're old. It does not mean they're an albino. They have some that have albinoism, just like we do with our people. The older ones will get gray and turn white, just like we do. But there is a ton of white ones that are just a normal Caucasian skin. I have a large white male that's here that has the dark skin underneath. You know, the one that I'm so close to and have been, still am, he had the Caucasian skin under it. So they're all very different, but just because they're white does not mean they're old, does not mean they're an albino.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's kind of cool. Actually, that's kind of cool. With the different types, the skin tones, things like that.
Yeah, everything on it is different. You know, you can get some that have the eyes shaped a little bit different, the nose shaped different. Some have a fuller lip, some of them don't. You know, I've seen some that the entire face was void of any hair, but then they would have like the beard or like the mustache, like almost like a goatee, you know. And then I've seen some that have hair all over it and it's just bald, like from the cheekbones up or whatever. You know, I had a female that brought her baby for me to see, and she honestly looked like Cousin It. I mean, this girl had like 2 foot long hair everywhere. It was long hanging off her face. I mean, you could see her eyes. You could barely see her nose and her mouth. But boy, when she would walk, the hair would just part and show those muscles ripple underneath. It was just amazing. And she was like the color of copper. She was gorgeous.
Really? I heard some of them are, I mean, the musculature is massive.
Yeah.
You know, it's massive. Let's get into let's talk about how they are with the pets. Because, you know.
Yeah, I don't have issues. Like, I know a lot of people that do. There's been several people in our town that have said that, you know, they've caught them leaning over their kennels trying to grab the dogs or whatever. I have cats. I have dogs. I have mini pigs. Now, all my animals come in at night, but they don't bother them. I have a bigger problem getting them to quit playing with them. That seems to be the bigger issue. They've never bothered my animals. I had one time back in 2010, a cat showed up and it looked like something had peeled the flesh right off its back leg. I don't know that a Bigfoot did it. I mean, we had coyotes all over the place. We had cougars, we had bears. It could have been anything. But I went outside and I said, listen, these are my pets. These are my babies. Just like I don't bother your children, you don't bother mine. These are my pets. And they use every animal that's out there as a pet. And not all the times that they take dogs are they killing them. Sometimes they will take them and use them as a pet. The only experience I ever saw where they killed a dog, and as sad as it was and heartbreaking, I understood why. Here in the South, when they deer hunt, and this is altogether different than Michigan, when you hunt deer in Michigan, you don't let dogs run these deer. You just don't. But the snake population here is so extreme. When they go deer hunting, they cut the hounds loose on the road. The hounds run into the woods, scare up the deer, and chase the deer to the road. And these hunters just sit in the back of their pickups and peg them off as they're going out in the road.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of times, if the dogs don't come back right away, the hunters will just take off. They'll come back in a few days to see if they can track them. And they had 4 hounds that every day were going and treeing the Bigfoot kids out behind my house and on the side of it. And it had gotten really bad. And there had been a couple times when they had asked, you know, for help because the hounds were out there going after the kids and going after them. And you'd hear them yelling at them and everything. And it kept on and it kept on. It came on. And finally, after the course of several days, they finally quit trying to get away from the hounds and they killed them. It was really, really bad. It was horrific. I don't ever want to hear that again. It was awful. It was heartbreaking, but I understood why. They were hurting their children. They were hurting their families. And they finally did. They did kill them. I mean, like I don't know how they did it. I just heard the dogs screaming. And then all of a sudden it was quiet. No more hound dogs. So that's the only time in my life that I have ever had a situation where they killed anything. They've certainly never hurt any of mine.
Right.
Now, like mine, I have a fenced in yard and I have, as anybody that knows me, I have 14 dogs. I have a lot of dogs. And they are obsessed with my Pyrenees. They love all of them. They'll play with every bit of them, but they love my Pyrenees. And they will take her stuff. They'll bring shoes and throw them into the backyard so she can play with the shoes. They took the stakes. My septic tank is not in the fenced in area. It's probably about 6 to 10 feet away, and it has stakes on it. They pulled the stakes out and tossed them in the backyard, and they were all out there. All the dogs were playing with them, having a ball. And I'm like, good Lord. So then the one day I started where I would go out there in the morning and I walk the perimeter of the inside of the fence to make sure they haven't tossed anything in there that can hurt them.
Right.
I walked the fence. Nothing was out there. I went in the house. 15 minutes later, I look outside and my Pyrenees is carrying around a 2x4, a weathered 2x4. Like she's just carrying it around like no big deal. I was like, what the?
I can see that in my.
Oh my gosh. And they're forever wanting to get in the garage. I have dog kennels in the garage for the large dogs and for the mini pigs. And they all, it's air conditioned or heat or whatever. So they, you know, they can't handle climate or precipitation, God forbid. And so they go, the bigger dogs and the 2 mini pigs go in there at night. And there's been so many times we get up and every single cage has been cut loose. And everybody's running around and playing and things have been moved. And you know, I left one day and the garage door was down. I came back and it was pushed in and off the tracks from the outside going in, you know, but usually the adolescents, you know, they get kind of horsing around, but I don't have a lot of damage from them. They've been pretty good. Like I just don't have that issue. Not that I won't at some point in time, but I've not had those problems. The only time I ever had it, I was in Michigan and we had a manufactured home. We had double wide and they kept going under there and playing and playing and playing. And they would go and lay on their backs underneath of it and then knock up like on the floor. And I would get up. Yeah. And I'd tap on the floor and then I'd move and they would follow me tapping all around the house. It was a hoot. The kids used to do that with them all the time. And they kept pulling the end of the skirting around the double wide off at the end, and that's how they were crawling under there. And I'd go and I'd hook it back up, I'd nail it back up, and the next day it'd be pulled back and they were under it. And I asked and nobody would stop doing it. So I thought, I'm going to talk to them in their language. You know, the stick structures are a form of communication. They're not just decorative. And I thought, you know, the X's laying on the ground, the smaller X's laying on the ground, that's a welcome sign. I didn't know that. I thought all X's meant stay out.
Yeah, no go.
Yeah. So I went and I put an X on the ground in front of the opening that they went in. And I thought, fine, you won't listen to me in my language. I'll do it in yours. So I left it there. That night, it was like they threw wild parties under the house. I mean, nobody slept. I got up, I went out, and they had taken the skirting off the entire end of the house. And I was so mad. And I was out there just yelling. And one of the ones that I'm excessively close to is just cracking up. He thought that was funny. I said, what is so funny about this? Look what they did. He said, it's your fault. I said, how is it my fault? He said, because the X's on the ground mean welcome. You asked them to come in. I was like, oh my God. And you couldn't have told me this last night when I did it. You know, they were too busy laughing. They've got a wicked sense of humor. It's warped, but it's Igor Borsteff was at my house. Yeah. And I used to always feed him in the back of the property. And then I thought that every night they came up right around roughly 2 o'clock in the morning and they would tap on my window. I would go outside with them. The kids would be asleep. My kids would be. And I would go outside in my pajamas, no flashlight, no nothing. And I'd go out there and I'd sit with them. And they'd walk around and they'd chit chat and they'd just walk and they'd pace. And I just sat out there with them in the woods. And so I thought, you know, every night they come up to the house. Why am I lugging all this crap to the back of the woods? I mean, really, I'll just feed them up there. So I started feeding them up at the house.
Okay.
And Igor had always come and he was there and he said, well, we'll put chicken legs in this jar and tighten the jar lid and put it out because they would take anything I put out there. And he said, I'm going to sit in the pickup truck and I'm going to wait for them to come get it and I'll get good pictures of them. He said, did I want to stay out there with them? And I said, no, because you're not going to get anything. I'm going to bed. So I went to bed. The next morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning, I didn't go out with him that night either. I didn't go out to see the Foots either because they wouldn't come in because he was there. So I slept all night long. 5 o'clock, he came in to get a cup of coffee. He hadn't seen him all night long. He came back. No, he came in, got a cup of coffee, walked back out to the truck, and now the jar with the chicken legs, and it was undone, chicken legs off, the top back on, and sitting on the truck.
Oh, man. Poor Igor.
He went out one night. There was him and three, two other researchers besides Igor and myself. They wanted to stay out there all night long. And I had been out in the woods all day with them. I said, I'm exhausted. I'm going to bed. You know, you guys do what you want to do. So Igor went out there in the middle of the yard and set up his little tripod, set up his camera, and he was working on that. And the other two researchers were up against the house in the shadows where you couldn't see them. This Bigfoot came up, went right up behind Igor, crouched down how Igor was behind his camera, and imitated every movement Igor made. Igor had no clue he was there.
What?
And the two researchers that were up against the house were like trying to get Igor's attention, but they didn't want to make it so noticeable. They didn't know what, this particular Sasquatch would do. Was it going to hurt Igor if it was startled, or, what was going to happen? So they didn't want to be loud. And he imitated Igor the whole time. And he was like not even 10 feet from him. He finally stood up and walked away. And right as he got walking away, Igor turned around and he saw him, just kind of like the shadow of him as he was walking away.
Oh.
But it was there the whole time.
Oh my goodness. Poor Igor. Oh my goodness. Where is Igor back? Because Igor's from
Russia.
Russia, right? Is he back in Russia now, or is he?
Yeah, he's been back he's been back since last July.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, is he coming back to the States or?
Not right now. I don't think they're going to allow it. Okay. I really don't. He does want to get back. He's working on some really great research right now, and so hopefully we'll get more information on that soon. That I certainly can't be the one to release it. That's got to come from him. And so as he gets it, he'll put it out. But he's working on some really great stuff.
That's good. That's great. Yeah, I haven't met him yet, but he seems like a cool guy.
He is. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's just picking up that spirit off of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So do you feel that? You know what? I have a good question for you.
Sure.
You've told me, but let's let everybody know where do they say they're from?
Well, they've never told me like per se planet name, but I asked them. This was before the Ketchum study in the Genome Project.
Right.
I didn't even know Melba then. This was a few years before that. I asked them one day when I was out with them what they were, and they looked at me and they said, "We're people like you. We're human like you." Then they pointed at the sky and said, "And star people." And I thought, well, they would know before anybody else would. Everybody asked me, what planet? I've never asked them that. And the truth is, I don't know that they would even, they may say planet, but I don't know that would necessarily be the truth, because they're so protective of their people. Right. And they aren't like going back and forth to planets. They're here. This is now home base. This is going to stay home base. So, and then we have the problem that Duke Sullivan, who owns and runs World Bigfoot Radio, I recommend that show to everybody. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
It's great. I like this.
Yeah, Duke's the best. And we actually did a show about what was hunting the Sasquatch. And there is a few races of ETs that are. And it's gotten to be really problematic. I'm not the only one that has seen this, but there are certain ETs that would prefer to take them back and destroy them.
Why?
Because they won't work with the ETs. The good ones are not going to work with the ETs. They want them to, basically spy on us, get information or whatever. And they're not about to do that. And so it's a problem. And so what they've done now, these outside races, I don't even know what race it is. I've seen them, but I don't know what they call themselves. I actually, with witnesses, this was not by myself, had a ship land at the back of our property in Michigan. And then out of this ship came these, what looked like a Sasquatch, and they're basically robotic. They cannot mind speak. They cannot talk English. They are very limited with any type of communicational skills. They look exactly like ours, only if you really watch them, they don't have as fluid of the movement. And they are basically killers. That's what they do. And, and I have talked to, after I had this happen, I was like, I thank God that I wasn't by myself, because I would have thought I was nuts. And I thought, this is insane. And then I started talking to other people that were witnessing the same thing, and I confronted the Bigfoots about it and asked them, and they said, yes, they've been trying to kill us, and when these things show up, they do like the duck and cover. They totally go quiet.
Really? Well, why don't the aliens, since the aliens fuse the DNA between animal and human
Yeah. Same thing
to
with the Dogman. You
right.
know, Dogman, if there are some that were created by Native, what I was told was Native American magic, I mean, whatever that entails. But there's also, I think those were more the werewolves, but don't quote me on that one. I think that's what it was. But there's been government created Dogmen. There's multiple different ET races that have Ebens have created a Dogman. There's other races that have as well. I think that's why you get so many different variants. You get so many different temperaments.
Do you think the government? I think personally, but do you think the government also did DNA on Bigfoot? I mean, to create.
Oh, they have. They've crossed them with all kinds of stuff. And the Bigfoot are not shy about it. They're not happy about it at all. They use Bigfoot DNA and they cross it with other ET races as well as other types of things to create whatever they need. It's actually quite sad. It's very sad.
So what I'm thinking is, why don't the since the aliens, why, if they wanted to mess with the Bigfoot, why don't they have the technology? Why don't they just fuse together? They're
the ones that created them to begin with.
Right. So
but not all. The thing is like with everything else, not all ETs are bad. Right. Okay, there's a lot of races, and I've dealt with ETs since the time I was a toddler. Mm-hmm. I have more than my share of ET stuff. Okay, whether it be photos, whether of UFOs, I've got a couple of the ETs themselves. I have one that was laying out in the grass out here. It was really weird looking. Really? But yeah, my first abduction I remember was 4. I was taken again probably about 3 weeks ago. I've been taken on and off my entire life. So yeah, there's physical evidence to back it up.
I'm sorry. When they had taken you, can you remember anything, or did they blank your memory?
Sometimes. This last time I didn't. I got some flashbacks about 3 days ago, but nothing that was really helpful other than them in the room.
Mm-hmm. How is the experience? Is it crazy like fire in the sky?
This last time was much more. I wasn't frightened, but it was it affected me more, I guess is the best way to put it, than any of the other ones. I've only had 3 or 4 that have been absolutely terrifying. Unfortunately, I didn't remember all of it, so that was a good thing. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, like when I was 4 and they took me, they didn't hurt me at all. They talked to me.
Right.
They showed me things. When you have to remember, when I was 4, we didn't have modern day CAT scans.
Right.
The machines.
Right.
They took me and showed me this room, and they had a human on this table, and it was a CAT scan machine there. It looked exactly like what our CAT scan machines look like now. And that was when I was 4 years old, and they didn't even have them then. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I remember being in the ship, in various things, but I think this last one, other than 2 other times where they absolutely terrified me, for the most part, the other 2 times when they scared me so bad, it was like a learning curve for me, because I was like, wait a minute, you can fight back. Mm-hmm. There's things you can do, whether it's in dream state, whether it's, in physical form. You're not as helpless as we think we are. Although, they have the upper hand. We can't beat them. Right. But this last time was definitely more traumatic. Mm-hmm. Pat and I were actually just sitting on the bed, and it was like somebody flashed a flash on a camera into the room, and then it was gone. Mm-hmm. And I read energy. I do energy work. I have.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, since I was a kid. And I had been on edge all day. And I told Pat, I said, something's going to hit tonight. I'm telling you, they're back. Mm-hmm. And so he said, do you want me to stay awake? And I said, no, you've got to work tomorrow. Get some rest. Just get some rest. He's like, sorry, my screen fell. He said, if you need me, all you have to do is wake me up. And I'm like, yeah, if I can.
Right,
the one time they showed up in here, this was a few years ago, they literally, I couldn't move anything. I couldn't talk. I was paralyzed. I know how to throw energy. And the only reason I got them off of me is because I know how to throw it from my body without even moving. Mm-hmm. I teach all kinds of people how to do it. It's not a hard thing to do. I mean, if I can do it, a trained chimp can. And so that's how I got rid of them that time. Well, I had to flash a light, And I had been on edge for hours, and Pat's like, I'll stay awake. And I said, no, you've got to work tomorrow and you're not taking tomorrow off. Just go to bed. So he did. I was wide awake. I was watching TV, and then I have no memory of anything till the next morning. I had next to the bed, I had 2 cell phones, and I had my slippers up on a tower because I have a puppy that likes to eat my slippers. So I put him up on this big clothes tower. I got up, and neither one of the cell phones, so I have 2 cell phones, and neither one of the cell phones were there. That never happens to begin with. And I thought, he doesn't ever mess with my phones. He has his own cell phone. Why would he bother it? So I didn't know where it was. So I couldn't check to see what time it was. It was starting to get daylight. I got up. My slippers were gone. I thought, what is going on? I found one discarded over in my room past the end of the bed. And Pat walked in the bedroom. He hadn't gone to work yet. I said, did you take my phones? He said, no, I found your phones. I said, what do you mean you found my phones? They were next to me when I went to bed. And he said, no, they were in the bathroom on this other tower thingy that we've got in there. And I said, I would have never put them there because they would have fallen off and broke. Never. And he's like, I'm telling you, that's where I found them. And I said, this is bizarre. I said, do you know where my slippers are? He said, no. He walked into the bathroom because we have a master suite, has an attached bathroom. And one was sitting in front of the toilet, like I had been sitting on the toilet, and there was a slipper there. I said, that doesn't make sense. And the dogs couldn't have gotten them because there's a half door that goes between the master bedroom and the bathroom. I said, they couldn't have gotten in there. What is going on? He said, I think you need to look at what you're wearing. I said, what do you mean what I'm wearing? He said, what are you wearing? I said, my pajamas. He said, no, look again. My clothes were inside out. My bottoms were inside out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this isn't, yeah. And then we found the actual triangular marks that I normally have on my body afterwards.
Oh, okay.
So, and it was really odd because normally when I have the missing time, it just feels like missing time. This was different. This was like, I see, and I know how stupid this sounds, but there's no other way to put it. It was like I did not exist for these hours of missing time. I don't know what happened. I don't know what went on with it. It was like I didn't exist. And I was not frightened. I'm still not frightened. But I have had just extreme anxiety since that night. I'm not a good sleeper at night to begin with. And now I can't sleep at night at all. And then the other night, or 2 nights ago, we were watching a movie and it was talking about people that had been abducted or whatever. It just popped up. Like I was on a streaming service that popped up. I wasn't even looking for it. And I thought, okay, whatever. So I had it on, and the first person that talked about this huge white light that went in the room. And I was doing something else. I wasn't even actually wholeheartedly paying attention. And I heard that. And as soon as I heard that, I remembered things. Like I remembered the light. I remembered the beings. I remembered they showed me, it looked like planets. It was like a star system. They waved their hand and it appeared like on the carpet in my bedroom. It was weird, but I don't remember anything past that. But it was more traumatizing than it normally is. Normally it's like, okay, it is what it is. It's been done to me like dozens of times. I don't even freak out anymore. And I woke Pat up and I'm like hyperventilating. And I don't know why I'm hyperventilating. But I wasn't afraid. And I was like, oh my God, like what's going on? It's just weird. I've never been affected like that with it. I really haven't. The only other time they scared me, they'd pull you out in dream state a lot. And they had done that. And it was very, very frightening. And to the point where the next morning I was afraid to get out of bed. And I finally got out of bed and I thought, okay, you got to turn this around, girl, because it's not like it's going to stop. It hasn't stopped since you were 4. It's a regular thing. And I was like, wait a minute, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. And so once I started doing these things, when they tried it again, that was the end of pulling me out in dream state. Now, if they're going to take me, they're just going to do it. Or they'll do something to me here, So, but it's weird. It's not always a bad thing that they do to me. Or, like you said, I don't feel fearful.
Right, because I haven't heard you say anything that they haven't done anything bad to you physically.
No, the only thing they've ever done is they've taken a ton of DNA. And it's just, but if they've done anything painful, fortunately, I'm not remembering the pain part. I've had a couple of them that were purposely trying to scare me. And that was the 2 times that I got frightened. And then I learned how to put a stop to that. And so I've been okay since then. And now when it happens, it's like, okay. It is what it is. But yeah, it's been weird. You know, we get pretty much everything, you know, and I've shared with you some of the photos. I mean, I get the
Oh
cat
yeah, they
people
were
here.
very good.
Yeah, I get the cat people. I get the Dogman. I get the Bigfoot. I get the ETs. The UFO video that we have is phenomenal. My son-in-law actually took it from our front porch, and unbeknownst to me, he set it to MUFON, which probably wouldn't have been my first choice, but he wanted to, so that's fine. It was no problem. They came back and they said it was what they would consider a class 1 sighting, that it was definitely not from here.
Okay.
And one of the best videos they've seen. They were just astounded by it and said if we got any more, let them know.
Of the UFO?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did I ever send you the UFO video or the picture?
I didn't see, no, I didn't see that. No, I didn't see that yet.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, because I'm glad you brought up the thing, because I did want to talk to you about the aliens and the UFO.
Yeah. Well, the UFO video actually has 2 UFOs on it. It looked, when we first started watching it, my son-in-law had taken the video. He gets full credit for the video and the pictures because that was not me. That was his doing. He did a spectacular job, and it looked like there was one. It's a silver disc spinning, and then multiple colors are shown spinning around it.
Oh, okay.
It's not just a white light.
Okay.
And at one point, a bright red UFO exits that one and then trails behind it.
Okay.
But we get a lot of them here.
That's crazy. But because me personally, I've always been fascinated with I think it's the Evans.
Yeah, the Evans.
Zeta Reticula from the star system.
I'm not sure if that's where they're from or not. I don't remember. I read about it, but I don't quote me on that. But the Evans, Evans were actually a decent race. Like they're not hyper aggressive. They have done a lot of creating. They even talk about creating something that was part man and part wolf.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they own up to that, but there were other races that did it as well.
Right. Well, I heard they kind of like how we have recycled. They recycle too.
Yeah.
But they recycle DNA, like parts of the body.
It's like Lizardman. I've got, and I'm not going to say I'm the only one in the world because I don't know everybody in the world. I've not ever seen another photo of a Lizardman. Mm-hmm. I got one by accident. I was not trying to. When you have any of these cryptids or any of these beings, ETs, whatever, and they are cloaked, because they all can cloak. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you find a Bigfoot or whatever, and it's not cloaking, it's because the parents have not taught them to cloak. They have to be taught by the parents. If you don't know you can do something, and your parents haven't taught you, you don't know to use it.
Right, that's true.
And there are certain clans that go totally old school, and they won't deal with the paranormal side of what they can do.
That's why we have that situation where in the Bigfoot community, some people are like, well, they're flesh and blood, and then others are like,
they're flesh and blood, but they can go from flesh and blood to multidimensional in a millisecond. You know, that's the thing. But if they're cloaked, any of these things, and you get a picture of them while they're cloaked, mm-hmm. as long as you are not having them centered in the middle of it, they show up on camera. And I actually had gone out. I heard a bunch of noise out in the woods. Nothing bad. They were just out there, you know, hooping and hollering. And I went out there and I just took random pictures, and which is a lot of the times what I do to get pictures of him. And he was there. It's basically like from the shoulders up. I mean, you can definitely see it's a reptile. And he was just standing in the backyard. You know, I was like blown away.
So I wonder if, and also a good thing, like you said before, that, yours don't have a problem. The Bigfoot and the Dogman don't have a problem with each other.
Mine get along. You know, I hear a lot of people that say they won't be in the same place. They won't share the same space. I'm going to be honest with you. I have not had that experience. Have I talked to bad dogmen for people? Absolutely. Have I been in areas where the bad dogman might have gone through trying to help somebody? Absolutely. But as far as living on, and none of them live on my property. They visit. There's a difference. And as far as what comes through my property, I've not had any bad problems. Like when I lived in Michigan, I actually got help from 3 dogmen.
Really?
And they were very, very kind. I have a the werewolf type that sits across from my driveway that keeps an eye on the place. I have 2 or 3 dogmen that come in frequent through here, and I have another werewolf type person that comes through. None of these have tried to hurt myself or anybody that's been at my house. And the thing is, because I talk about all this stuff, everybody thinks, oh, she's all seen it by herself. And everybody thinks I'm nuts. But the thing is, that's not true. That's the furthest thing from the truth. 99.9% of the time, I have somebody with me. Not because I have to, but it just happens to fall that way. Mm-hmm. Have I seen him when I'm alone? Yeah, 100%. I've had him come up right up to me before. But 99% of the time, there's somebody around. It's not just me. I mean, I don't let just everybody come to my house.
Right.
And
you shouldn't.
No, but I have had people that were researchers here as well as friends, and they've all seen them. That's good. And I've talked about this on other shows. That when we moved in, I had the cable guy come out to install cable.
Oh yeah,
it scared the Jesus out of that poor man. I felt so bad. I was like, my gosh, why are you terrorizing this poor guy? But then they felt bad because he wouldn't stay, and he had to have these wires to hook up the cable, and he left in a rush because he wouldn't be out there with them. And he took the wires with him, and I was just mad as a hatter because I like watching TV. I don't even have to sit and watch it. It's just background noise for me during the day.
Right.
So the next morning, Pat gets up to go to work. He opens the front door, and there's this pile of wires. I don't know where they got it from. Had nothing to do with cable, but the pile of wires was on the front porch. I was like, all right, you're forgiven.
Oh, excuse me.
They're a hot mess.
So did you finally get the cable installed? Did
they sent a different worker out. He refused to come back to my house.
Because he saw them. He saw those eyes, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. And where he was putting the pole in was only like 6 feet from where they like to hang out anyway. And he was supposed to be there earlier in the day. He didn't show up till 4:30. Then he said he forgot the wires he needed to hook it up. He would be back. He didn't come back till 7:30, 8 o'clock. And it was like in March. So it was the wintertime here. By then it was dark. So I'm out there and I've got like the vehicle lights on so he can work on it. And he said the whole time he's working on it, he saw the eye shine. And then he heard, like garbled noises. And they were shaking the bushes like they were going to bend over. And he said, I kept saying, oh, I'm sure it's a raccoon or it's a possum. It's not a big deal. And he said, not that big. He said, whatever's in there is big. It's like bigger than a human. And he's like, the bushes are shaking back and forth. He said, please, man, please don't make me go back out there. Like I had to walk this man to his vehicle because he was afraid to go out there.
Right.
And then they sent somebody else. He said he'd rather quit than come back. He wouldn't come back again.
Oh, poor guy. I know
I felt bad.
Yeah. And the thing about it's so funny because the people that don't want to deal with it, they get all the action, and then the ones like
I know
need to.
Yeah. But we hadn't formed any bond with them yet here because it was the day after we moved. The day we moved in is when they came out. We moved in on a Wednesday night, and he came out on Wednesday morning. We moved in, and he came out on Thursday, and then they had to come back out on Friday because he couldn't do it.
How long have you all been there in the Carolina?
We've been here 5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So it's time to go home.
I hear you.
I'm really mixed and torn because, I do have grandkids and kids here that I love dearly, but I also have kids and grandkids I love there dearly. And my mom's having some health issues, so it's time to go home.
Yeah, Mom. Is Miss Mom in Michigan?
Oh yeah. And the thing here is the venomous snake population. I've never been afraid of snakes. I am now, but I never was before. My kids had snakes as pets. I used to play with snakes. It was never a big deal. There are so many venomous snakes here. It is insane.
They move like light. They move fast. I got to show you the video. I just got a video of Memorial Day.
I
was about to step on a snake. We went out researching here in Maryland, and I mean, this sucker was fast. I'd never seen a snake move this fast.
Yep.
But I'll show you. I'll let you see.
Yeah. We have a black rat snake that went across the yard. In fact, I didn't see him. I was on my way out to the mailbox. I was on the phone talking to a friend. I almost stepped on him. Didn't scare me because once I saw and he just stood there looking at me, and it didn't scare me because I knew it was non-venomous. And we had a rat snake that got in the garage. Again, didn't scare me even in the slightest because I knew he wasn't venomous. Worst I could do is get bit and have it hurt.
Right.
You know, so that was fine. But we're talking a 7-foot rattler. I will say this. I have said since I got here, you know, if nothing else, if you guys can keep the snakes away, I'll be happy. And other than that, those couple of rat snakes, we've been fortunate. But the lady next to me has already lost a dog from a copperhead bite. She's continually got copperheads at her place. 7-foot rattler went across her yard into my bushes. And we never saw it come out. I don't know if it doubled back or what it did. We never saw it come out. I know. And we have the water moccasins because there's a pond across the street, a pond behind me, and a swamp up the road. And then I had a dog that had gotten loose, and there was like 4 of them that got loose, and she got bit by a rattlesnake out in the woods, killed her dead.
Is she okay?
No, it killed her.
Oh,
she never came back. It was devastating. You know, they're just everywhere. It's like you drive down my road and you see them cutting across the road, and they're always a poisonous snake. It's always. And so I've got all these people that are like, just get snake boots. I don't want to just have to get snake boots. What if they strike and it's higher up above the snake boot? I don't want to deal with it. I want to be able to, I mean, I spent my life in Michigan just out in the woods all the time. I was in the woods every single day and I loved it. I can't do that here at all. Like I don't go more than 5-10 feet out there. And then I'm scared because I live in the middle of a pine tree forest. So there's all this mulch and the copperheads get under that mulch, and so do the rattlers and the water moccasins, and you can't see them until they strike. You just can't do it. And I hate it. You know, I'm lucky because in order to do any research, I can go sit on my deck and do research because they'll come up to the house. You know, it's like they're tapping on the window, and I've had more than one time wake up in the middle of the night and see a face looking in the window. You know, and they're watching in the window. So, I mean, I'm fortunate. I can get pictures and go stand on my front porch or stand on my back deck. I still have the interaction. They're still looking in the windows. They're tapping on the windows. They're, you know, they're leaving gifts on the porch and, you know, all various things. So I can still do what I want to do, but it's just, I don't want to live like that. I want to be able to go outside, get in the woods and take off and do whatever I want to do. I did a conference in Michigan last year, and they were going to go do research the following week. And instead I went to see my family. I didn't go with them, but I spent 2 days with a friend of mine out in the woods. It was phenomenal. I could go and walk anywhere I wanted. And then I was back where I could get in the lakes when I want. You don't go get in the lakes here. Between the venomous snakes and the gators, that's the last place you want to be.
Right.
You know, I mean, really. So, and my sister and my mom live up at Traverse City. And they've got, you know, Traverse City Bay and everything up there. So we went swimming up there, and I thought, oh my God, this is like heaven. Like you don't appreciate it until it's not there.
You're sitting in the middle of a bunch of deadly snakes, right?
Yeah. And my son works for Lakeside Motors. Phenomenal place. They have the best boats. If you're in Michigan, I would highly recommend it. And my kid works on all the boats. So, but his boss, who is incredibly kind, is like, well, if your mom's coming to town, you pick out whatever boats in the showroom you want to take out there on the lake. Go ahead. So we had this absolutely stunning pontoon, but it was just incredible. It was like a party boat. And we had it all day so we could go out on the lake with it. And I'm like, I can swim in the lake and I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah.
Robyn, hold on real quick. I just got to thank everybody real quick because they came in and I didn't want them to think I was ignoring them.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Gene. Thank you, Diesel. Well, Diesel, that's my brother. The Bat Mom. So thank you all for coming.
Oh, tell Bat Mom hi. Love that woman. She's the best.
Yes. Okay, Bat Mom's your buddy. Okay, yeah.
She is. I love her.
Dean and Gary, thank you all.
She's my girl. And if anybody has questions, we can do questions and answers.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, you all can ask questions. It's fine. I just see what happened was when I say hello, when I type hello, I put myself into a delay, and I'm scared to do the delay. So I didn't want to type anything.
Yeah.
Because it'll put me in the delay and then everything just goes haywire. But anyway, let's talk about the. I want to get back to the so the boat thing went well. You had an area where you didn't have to worry about craziness. Oh, let's talk about the air conditioning unit at the house.
Okay. And just so you guys know, if anybody does ask any questions, I am not an expert. I don't
Mhm.
claim to be an expert. If anybody asks a question and I don't know the answer, I will be upfront and just tell you I don't know it. Like, I'm not going to make up an answer just to fill the space.
Okay.
So I just like to tell everybody that. Okay, the air conditioner. This was in Michigan, and I always slept with my window partially open.
Right.
And my cat had destroyed the screen, so there was no screen there. And they would reach their hand in every night. My bed was by there, so I could look out and see what was going on in the yard. They would play with my hair, and I would get up in the morning and I'd have leaves in it in my hair, and I'd have mud in my hair, and it would smell musty and everything. No problem. So it got really hot that summer. It was hotter than normal. So I went and I bought an window air conditioner unit, and I put
Mhm.
it in the window. I have no idea how they did this
Mhm.
without waking me up, unless they do what they call trancing, which
Mhm.
just, it's like you're in a trance. You don't react. Your mind is active. Your mind knows what's going on. And I've had it done before. I had one come right up to me and hold my arm, and he did that to me. But yet you're non-reactive. And the only thing I think of is that's what they did, because the dogs didn't even bark. But I got up in the morning, and when I went to bed, it was in the window. It was working great. I got up in the morning and it was gone.
Mhm.
And I later found it in the back of the woods all mangled. So they were not happy that it was blocking there. And then we had bought a central air unit.
Mhm.
All we had to do was buy the furnace parts for it to hook it in. It took 3 or 4 men to get it off the back of the pickup truck, and it was sitting outside where it was going to be hooked up at. They
Mhm.
took that and they took that out in the woods. I don't know who did it, how they did it, or whatever, but they took it out in the woods. They didn't break it. It was just sitting out in the back of the woods.
What? So, so did you finally get air installed,
No,
or?
I didn't. The air conditioner units that we had in the living room, in the windows, they left those alone. But I
Mhm.
never could put a window air conditioner in my bedroom.
So what are
Apparently,
you
I
all
was
using
supposed to
for
split.
air?
Well, this was in Michigan. Here in the South, I have 2 central air units for my house. I have one that's for the upper half of the house and one for the lower.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah, and
because
they don't bother that because it doesn't block the windows.
okay.
Their biggest thing that they do outside here is, I have 2 pens. They have tops on them, and they're the smaller barred pens that are for cats. I have 3 male Savannahs, which is Savannah cat is a West African serval and a domestic, and Maine Coon cross is what I have.
Mhm.
And they're in a pen. They hate being in the house, so they have a pen out there. And then I have another pen that my girl Savannahs are in, and my neutered boys that were just feral or whatever and are not doing well in the house. They're always wanting to get out, and I don't let any of my animals run loose. So I have 2 large pens, and they're covered so the cats can't get out. And they have this huge walk-in door. Because the bars are small, you can't get it like a pine cone
Mhm.
per se through the bars. You might be able to put grass through it, but you can't get a pine cone through it, and it can't get through the top. The
Right.
top has got not only the same that are on the sides on top, but it's also tarped.
Okay.
And I have these huge buckets that I keep cat food in, so they can have it as much as they want. It's like a free for all in there. I go out there, and the cat food buckets in both pens are emptied, and it's filled with pine cone. Now
Really?
pine cones can't get in
So they
that
like
pen.
the cat food.
Yeah. Oh, they love it. They take it all the time.
Okay.
But the thing that's so bizarre about it is they replace things with it. They'll fill the buckets with leaves, or they'll fill it with pine cones.
That's nice. That's nice.
Well, it's considerate, but it's hysterical, because when they started doing it, I was like grabbing all these different pine cones and trying to force it through the bars, and they wouldn't fit through. And I'm like, okay, somebody tell me something logical as to why these pine cones are in, and the door was shut again and locked.
Mhm.
And I'm like, how are they doing this? I mean, it wasn't like a lock, the key or anything like that. It's just the way it closed. But yeah, the doors were shut. None of the cats were let out. Every piece of kibble, there was not a crumb in those pens, but yet the buckets had pine cones in them.
That is
Like,
that is crazy. So
the
let's
other
talk.
day, I went out there the other day, and the water was low, and they have huge buckets for water as well. And there's only like 1/8 of an inch of water in there. I walked in the house, and I thought, well, I'll grab cat food, and then I'll put more cat food out and water at the same time. I walked back out there like 20, 30 minutes later, and all the water buckets were full.
What?
Every
Really?
one of them. Yeah, it was a riot.
That is something. That is too much. So let's let's talk about the uh the juveniles. Let's talk about the height.
Okay.
Let's talk about their ways, their attitude. Do they like to play? Are they mean? Are they nice?
Are you talking about the little kids or are you talking like the adolescents, like
Uh,
teenagers?
let's start with the little kids.
The little kids are pretty good. The
Hmm.
biggest problem that we don't have this problem here, a friend of mine has with the little kids, is the parents there are constantly letting them mess with their chickens.
Hmm.
They want to play with the chickens and they end up killing the chickens, not on purpose, but they because they were so rough with them. So there's a problem there with that. I have not had that issue.
Hmm.
I do know they play with the cats all the time.
Hmm.
I found all kinds of footprints in the pens, and I know they're playing with them, and they've told me they're playing with them.
Hmm.
And somebody decided it was a good idea to dump 3 4-week-old kittens down by the swamp and just dump them.
Hmm.
And my husband saw them, and we had to go out that night, and so we grabbed them because they couldn't even find a mouse to eat because
Right.
the mouse would have kicked their butts. They were that tiny.
Yeah.
And they were terrified. They wouldn't go in the woods. They wouldn't go anywhere. They were scared to death. So we brought them home. So now I have another baby pen that I used from when I had my animal rescue that these kittens are in. And I know they're playing with the kittens because when I go in there, they have like a small dog house type thing in it so the kittens can go in there. And it's moved all over the pen. These kittens
So
are
they
not
so
going to
they it's like they jack up the chickens, but they spare the kittens. So that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, it was my friend's house with the chickens. And so she has to come down really hard on the parents and say, either you take care of your kids or I'm gonna, because they're not gonna do this. And they kept letting her cats out. I haven't had that. The only time I've ever had any of the animals let out
Mhm.
I think it was more the teenagers because they
Okay.
had been trying and trying to get in the garage and they kept letting them all out.
Okay. That is that is just crazy. So what? So what are the? I guess let's say the teenagers like. I've
Yeah,
seen
I mean, I
mine.
call them the adolescents, but I mean, you're talking like your upper teen years. It's like, remember that movie, Animal House?
Yes.
Okay, think of that, only with the strength of King Kong. Um, they can get really rowdy. Like the biggest problem I had with them, and they finally have stopped because I got hold of the ones that I know, and I think they had more to do with stopping it than anything. They would get on my roof, and
Ooh,
they
yeah.
would get above my room and they would be up there and it was so loud. It was unbelievable. And then they would go up on the second story roof
Mhm,
where my daughter and her fiance are at.
mhm.
And it was like,
Well,
you
we
guys
had
are,
that situation in Lynchburg, Virginia. They kept getting on this lady's roof, and
yeah,
another lady was in Roanoke, Virginia, and they kept getting on her roof too.
yeah, they do. And I think they got over on the other end of the house too, above the garage, because one of the shingles mysteriously came off, but only one.
Mhm.
So I think that was them, and we had to get really really pissy about it. The ones that we know were telling them that they had to get control of these kids and they were trying to and it wasn't happening. And I ended up out there one night 11 o'clock at night,
Mhm.
and I had used the mom voice. Okay, literally, like,
Right.
to be clear, there's nothing that we're ever going to tell them to do that they're going to listen to. I mean, they might do it as an act of kindness towards us,
Mhm.
but they have the upper hand at all time. They're in control. They don't do things because we say do it. I have asked them for help in certain things and they have done it every time,
Oh, that's
but
good.
I don't do that a lot
Mhm.
and only in extreme situations because I don't ever want to take advantage of that.
Right. Right.
But
That's good. That's fair.
I mean, I went out one night, 11 o'clock at night. I'm out there. You are going to stay off this roof or I'm going to zap your furry ass. I don't know why I thought that was going to do any good. I mean, I heard laughter coming from the bushes, but made me feel better. But they pretty much stopped it now. We've been really lucky. They have been really good as far as the life-saving things. They've saved my life personally 5 times. It's my core group that does it. We had a situation here about 3 or 4 years ago, and Pat and I were laying in bed. It was his day off, and we were watching a movie. It was in the morning. It was really early, and they kept pounding on the walls of our bedroom, like pounding and pounding and pounding. And I was like, okay, what's wrong? you know. And Pat and I were both, because Pat mind speaks. My husband is absolutely brilliant at mind speak.
Mhm.
Like, trust me, he is a wealth of information,
Mhm.
and he experiences all this stuff with me.
Mhm.
You know, we're like partners in crime. And I'm talking to him, Pat's talking to him, and they were so hysterical we couldn't make out what they said. And then they were quiet. So we thought, okay, whatever. Pretty soon it started back up again. And Pat and I looked at each other and said, okay, we got to find out what's going on outside, because they are really panicked. What had happened was a branch had hit our power line. It come down on the power line. It was sparking, and it was fall. So all the leaves were on the ground, and it was setting the leaves on fire. There was like 8
Oh.
different spots that had been caught on fire by these sparks.
Mhm.
And you could see a shadowy figure with what they call a shimmer, which looks like the predator thing.
Right.
And you could see that go up to each place where the sparks had hit and started, smoke was coming up and small flames were coming up, and you would see them put it out and go to the next one. And then another tree had come down, but it missed the power line. So basically they wanted us to know there was fire out there. So we called the fire department, of course, and they came out, but they had the fire put out. I mean, the Bigfoots had already done their thing and it was out. But I mean, had Pat and I not known it, while we were laying in bed watching a movie, we were going to go back to bed. We were tired. He didn't have to work that day. It could have burned the whole place down.
Right. That is something. Well, I'm glad they saved the day on that one. That was really good. That was good. I'm trying to think. What else did I have? There's another question. Do you So at least yours are, I guess you would call, benevolent. They're not as crazy as some people experience.
No. My guys are the best. Like, I can't even say enough good things about them. You know, I've got 3 or 4 clans that are here. I have some of my core group from Michigan that are here now. And that core group, like, I always call them my guys or my girls or whatever. I don't own them. You know, they own themselves. But that's just what I say, call them. And I put my life in their hands many times, and I don't say that easily, because, like, I would not do that per se with the other ones in the clans here. They're nice, they're kind, we get along well. I don't have that level of trust, because you should never have that level of trust. The ones that I do put that in, they have proven themselves to me, and I have proven myself to them over the years.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm always very clear that if it comes down to them saving themselves or saving me, I'm expendable. You know, nothing is going to be more important than their people. Nothing will be more important than their children or their own safety. And they can love us as much as they want to and be as helpful as can be. But at the end of the day, they've got to take care of themselves. And I know that, you know, and I that's fine. I've spent my life trying to protect them all. I will always continue to do that. I tell everybody the good ones are the deepest love you'll ever have, but the bad ones are lethal. And there is nothing in between. But a lot of people, like, you get these ones that are up in the mountains or whatever, and we're all running up in the mountains to find them. What people don't realize is they go up in those mountains because they don't want to be with us.
Right. That's what I tell them. Yeah.
So then people go up there, and then they get a bad reaction, rocks thrown, and number one, when they throw rocks, depending on the size of the rock is the intent, and they don't miss. If they want to hit you, you're going to get hit. If they want you dead, there's nowhere on the planet you're going to go to get away from them, you know? So, but they go up in these mountains, and then all of a sudden they get, you know, attacked or ambushed or yelled at or screamed at or whatever. And people are like, oh, they're aggressive and they're nasty. Okay. If you're sitting at home,
right,
and you have your children there, and somebody barges through your door, that looks like, they look scary to us, but we look scary to them. And all our people have ever done was try to kill them, except for the habituators and the researchers that are actually care about them. But, you know, a lot of people are trying to shoot them all the time. So if somebody comes barging in your home, you're going to protect your family.
Right.
I know I would.
Right.
You know, and that's what they do. But you also have the ones that, like, you have the LBL, that land between the lakes. Everything bad goes there because that's where it's taken its stronghold at. And yet you have people that continually go there. They're going to camp out there because they want to have an experience. You don't want a negative experience. You want a positive experience. You get a negative experience and you might have a one-time sighting. if you live through it. That's if you live through it.
If you live through it.
Yeah. But if you're out there chasing them and hunting them down like a dog, or
Right. That's what I'm saying.
harassing them to get that money shot or to be able to see them or whatever, they don't want you around. And with them, because they're all telepathic, word travels fast. One finds out that you're evil, all of them know. So it's not going to matter where you go. So I always tell people, you want the positive. It may take longer to get a positive interaction, but it becomes a lifetime interaction.
Right.
And that's what you want.
I agree with you. I tell people
and I've worked with a lot of people, and that, they go out there and they see them and they chase them. Mm-hmm. Why? I'm going to Michigan on the 14th. I've got some filming to do. And a friend of mine has asked me to take them all out in the woods, which I'm going to do. But we just got done talking, and I said, we can go out in the woods during the day, look for structures, look for prints, whatever you want to do. I'm fine with that. I don't even mind. I'm not afraid to go out in the woods at night, but it's a little thing called respect. And if you want to interact with them, you better learn how to be respectful real damn quick. Otherwise, you got nothing.
Right.
And it's a two-way street. You have to set boundaries. Yeah, you have to set boundaries for them as well. And he recently got injured, and so he's still not at the top of his game. And he's like, but I still want to get out in the woods. I'm like, you can. But you know what's going to attract them? And he said, what? I said, park your ass, make a bonfire, cook some food on it, and laugh, because their whole thing is energy and vibration. That's why they can do the things they do, because they have a higher vibrational level and a higher energy level. So if you're when you're laughing, your energy and vibration goes right up through the roof.
Because they can feel the joy.
They can feel it, and it draws them in. If you've got a bonfire going and you're cooking food on it, that's a big deal to them. They're coming in. I said, just because you're wounded, just like here, there's been multiple times we've had a bonfire out back, and every time we do, the woods is all lit up with the eye shine. Can I be out running around in the woods because of the snakes? No. But I can go out in my backyard, in the middle of my backyard, and do it. We see so much activity in my backyard. It is absolutely insane. Like, literally insane. We went to put the dogs in one night, and there was a white one standing at the back of the fence. It had rained during the day, and the dogs had come in, and we had to let them all out, and then we were bringing them back in. We let them all out, and it startled him, and he took off, and he ran in the woods. And I'm like, okay. So, like, 3 days later, we let the dogs out for the last time to go to the bathroom at night, and they ran to the back fence, and there was a white female that was back there, and she dropped down and did the belly crawl all the way across the yard, and then stood up and started to walk in the woods when Pat said, look, there's another one over here on the other side. And here's this black face, hanging out around the tree looking at him, and it's turning around to walk toward the white female. And then I thought at first it was a dog, is what I truly thought it was at first, until I started thinking about it. It was on all fours, and it was jet black, and the neighbor doesn't have a jet black dog to begin with. Nobody on the block does except me, and mine were already inside. But it was on all fours, and it had its butt up in the air, and it was doing like the crab walk over towards mom, and then it stood up, and it was a kid. I mean, this is in the backyard. Okay. And I've had a couple of people come over and seen one of the white ones in the backyard. We had, when I had the rescue going, animal rescue going, we had 2 kennels in the front yard, so any intakes would go in the front yard in those pens, so they didn't contaminate the other dogs. That was the whole goal. And we had one that was a feral dog, and we had live trapped her, hoping to calm her down and find her a decent home. And she was just so vicious. And I could look. Oh, the dog was. She was horrible.
What do you do? What do you do about the feral dogs? Do they have to take them and put them to sleep, or do they?
No. What I ended up doing was, there was 4 of them all together. One I calmed down and found a home for them. 2 went to a lady that works with wolves, because I would go into the pen even to feed them or clean, and they would do circles around me, and they'd work as a pack mentality to try to go at me to pull me down.
Right.
So we split the pack up. So she took the 2 boys, and then I kept the female and the other one that was a male, because he was calm, and I was able to rehome him. And the white one, we finally had to call animal control because it was no longer safe. Okay. But she kept getting out. And the white Bigfoot would go over there in the pen with her all the time. He could go up and put hands on her, do anything he wanted to do. Nobody else could. She'd rip their arm off. She tried to kill my dogs.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, she killed off. She would get out of the pen all the time. She killed off a bunch of the feral cats. I
Ooh.
mean, she took down a deer, had it out in the front. I mean, she was 65 pounds, and we spent 3 weeks trying to catch her. And animal
Is it
control came
full
out.
blooded? What is it? Is it a dog wolf or is it a full blooded
It was
wolf?
no, I don't know. It was a Pyrenees cross. It looked like. We
So
have a Great Pyrenees, and ours is calm as can be. I don't know what she was bred with, but I know that she was running with the Pyrenees. And the mom, I don't know, the mom looked more like an Akita.
okay.
And the dad that was running with me, they had a whole pack of wild dogs. And the dad looked like a purebred Pyrenees. And she looked like a Pyrenees.
Okay.
But she was like 65 pounds. And she finally got out, and we spent weeks trying to catch her. Animal control called and said, "Have you caught her yet?" I said, "No, and it's not safe for anybody. Like, she will attack anybody." And he said, "Well, let us know when you catch her." And I said, "Okay." So I said to the Bigfoot one day, I said, "You guys put hands on her all the time." Like, I'd look outside and I'd see him holding her, you know? And I said, "Please get her back in the pen. I've got grandkids coming over. I mean, if they walk outside, she'll nail them." Like, it wasn't safe for us to go in and out of the house.
Right.
And so I'd asked him that. And like 2 days later, I left and I had the kennel door open in case she came back in.
No, she'd be looking at those grandkids like Twinkies.
Exactly. That was my concern. And we had friends come over, and she charged him every single time. She'd charge up behind him and just stop short from biting him. So I went into town, and I came back, and she was in the dog pen. The dog house had been moved in front of the walkout door. And I thought, why is the dog house moved? And I thought, okay. So I was afraid she'd try to get out. So I just like hit the gas and drove the car right up on top of that gate. So it shut. So she couldn't get out.
Okay.
I get out, I go to the gate, and the handle, it's like a horseshoe shape, and it goes on the pole. You lift the horseshoe up, and it sits on the pole to shut the gate because it's a dog kennel. They had taken that horseshoe piece and pinched it. Like, you can't heat that metal, that steel, and bend it. It's not possible.
They
pinched it. Just like they closed it. Yeah, it was like they just squished it like that.
Right.
So I've got to buy a new handle for it. So I ended up having to tie a rope around it to keep it closed so she couldn't get out, and that worked for a while, but she got so dangerous. It wasn't safe for anybody or any animal at all, and so animal control had to take care of her. I don't know what they ever did with her. I think they ended up having to put her down, but I don't know what they've done. They were going to try to rehab her. I said, "Good luck." I got her when she was 8 weeks old, and she was mean when I got her.
8 weeks old, she was acting like that? I thought she was already an adult.
No, she was 8 weeks old. The mother, we had gotten a call about the mom and the dad. There was 3 females in the male, and they had all these litters of puppies. And so we started live trapping puppies, and most of them we were able to calm down and rehome, and we're fine. She was just pure evil from the time we got her. She was, I took her in to get her shots, and I had to have her muzzled the entire time because she was so dangerous. And, she was just, and as she got older, she got bolder. And that's, but yet the Bigfoots can do anything. I don't know if they transfer or what.
It's a good thing she let the Bigfoots, she wasn't, trying to attack them because they would have probably broke her neck.
Oh, yeah. That's what I kept saying. Why don't you just take her out? Like, do everybody a favor. Like, I'm not for having to kill them all, but my God, that was bad.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm glad everything worked out with that.
Yeah.
Well, not for her because we don't know what happened to her.
But yeah, they've been really good. I don't have a lot of problems. Here and there, little things like, I'm not going to lie, I wasn't happy when they pushed in the door off the tracks. It was done from the outside going in.
Right. It's a pain trying to put garage doors back.
Oh yeah, they've destroyed that door. They push it. They take it in. They push it off the track. They push it off the track so they can wiggle their way in there. And inevitably, every single time, then the next morning, all the dogs are loosed from the kennels.
That is crazy. That is crazy. So, let's see. Hopefully you won't have any real crazy. Well, you have craziness anyway.
Yeah, that's the normal. Abnormal is my normal.
Right, abnormal is your normal. So that's.
But you know what? Pat and I have talked about it. If we could stop it tomorrow, we wouldn't.
Right.
We feel really blessed. There's a lot of bad stuff that goes along with it. Never at the house or in the property or anything. But the thing is, we get to see a part of the world that a lot of people don't. So I guess we're happy with it. We wouldn't change it.
Right. So let me ask you: when you come in, when you have you talked to Chad? Everybody, Chad is our Bigfoot friend. Bigfoot
Chad
guy.
got hurt
He did, yeah,
quite badly. I don't know if you
yeah,
knew
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I will talk to him tonight and see if he's out of the hospital. I don't know if he is or not. I messaged him last night and he said he was hoping he wanted to get out tomorrow, but in the beginning he said it wouldn't be till Wednesday. So I don't know if he's out or not. I know he's been in a tremendous amount of pain. I got hair hanging in my face. Tremendous amount of pain. Very worried about him. Chad is just one of the nicest, kindest
Yeah,
people.
he's great.
I
He's
love
great.
Chad. I love Chad.
Yeah.
He's always been so good to me, and I think the world of him. So I'm going on the 14th to see Chad. They ended up canceling the camp out because
Oh,
because they wanted to work more on the documentary,
okay,
which I will be in. I don't know for how
okay,
much time I'll be in, but I'll be there.
okay.
And so I was going to go on the 3rd, and then we had health issues on this end.
Mhm,
So we ended up putting that off until the 14th. So I'll go on the
mhm.
14th. It actually is going to work out better because that gives Chad time to heal.
Okay.
And then we'll do some filming and, be very careful about getting him out in the woods. If nothing else, I'll park his little tushy by the campfire and we'll
Right,
get him in that way.
right, right. Well, let's hope may the Great Spirit, may God, the Great Spirit, bless Chad
Yep.
for his healing. Let's pray for that, and I hope
And
he's okay. So what?
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think I had texted him last week. So, but please tell him I said hello
I
and
will,
give him my
sweetie.
best.
I will. I'm going to message him tonight when I get done here.
Okay, and what we're gonna do, because we went over time, because we had so many questions I wanted to talk to you.
We'll do it
But
again. We'll
oh
do
yeah,
it again.
definitely we'll do another one, and we'll talk about some more good stuff, and some more of your high strangeness and craziness
Yeah.
and everything like that.
My weird
Um,
life. I always
right,
tell everybody my life is the weird and freaky.
right, and then and you and I keep in touch, so we'll
Oh,
obviously
definitely.
we'll talk more.
100%.
Right. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead. Is there anything, your son? Did you want to give any information about your son's boating place? Before this quick advertisement.
Oh, yeah, he works over it's Lakeside Motors. It's in Michigan. Phenomenal boats. They also work a little bit on motorcycles, but super nice people. Super
Okay.
nice people.
Okay.
And he's one of the mechanics there. He works on the boats and kind of does everything. And my grandson is now working there.
Mhm.
He is in there. He does all the washing and the cleaning of the boats and stuff. So yeah,
That's
I'm anxious
good.
to get back. His boss Neil is just the dearest thing ever, and he was so gracious and kind. And Kyle said, "Can I have a day off? My mom's coming." And he said, "Kyle, then you go and take a boat out." And I thought, what, that says a lot about him as a person.
Right.
And it really made me feel good that he trusted my son enough to let him take out, these boats that are, my God, the amount of money you could pay for these boats, you could buy a house.
Mhm.
And we just had the best time on it, just absolutely fabulous time on it. And I got to meet his boss, incredibly kind man. The people over at Lakeside are really good. Like, I really recommend them just because not only when I was there, I saw the quality that's there,
Mhm.
but they treat you like a person. I mean, you're not just somebody buying something, you're a person there. And it was just amazing. I really liked it there.
That's good. Okay, great. Well, and I'm glad. So we let everybody know about your son's boating
Yep.
place, and people know if they're. And oh, you forgot. Is he in Carolina or Michigan?
He is in Michigan.
Michigan. Okay, so
Yeah,
both
I'm
places in
anxious to get
Michigan.
back. He's there, and then my other son has his own trucking company, and
Ooh,
he lives in Michigan.
that's good.
And so they each have my one son with the trucking company has 3 grandchildren, and then
Mhm.
so does my other son that works on the boats. His
Uh-huh.
daughter's in Texas, and then his son and his daughter are still in Michigan. So I'll
Oh
be able
my
to play
goodness.
with those again.
You have a big family. Oh my goodness. Big,
I
big,
had
big.
9 children. I had a lot of kids,
Ooh.
and all my kids grew up with the Bigfoots around them.
Oh my
There's
goodness.
time and the Dogman around them. There are times they would rather not know about it,
Right.
and a lot of the times it's like, "Mom, you deal with it. I don't want."
Right.
I think my youngest is actually more okay and in tune with all of it. The rest of them would like to pretend it doesn't exist.
Right.
You know, and then my oldest lives in Canada and he works for the First Nations there, the Musqueam. And so we had a very brief conversation about, you know, the Sasquatch there, and he really can't talk about it. He's not allowed, you know, certain things that he's heard, but most of it he can't talk about. But, you know, so that's kind of cool.
That's cool. Okay. Well, we got all that cleared out. So thank you, Robyn.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Right. And I'm gonna what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead and well, we had a few people here in chat, but I'm gonna go ahead and load this up to YouTube so everybody else can see it.
Okay, send me a link so I can find it.
Okay, yeah, because with my channel, some people, because it's kind of I was out there one time and then I stopped for a while. I got busy working, but now I came back. So
yeah,
I'll send you the link and let everybody.
Okay, yes, I can find it.
Okay, so thank you, and like I said before, you and I'll be talking as usual.
Yeah.
Just just shooting the breeze. So I'll say goodnight to you now. I'm gonna
okay.
Go.
And thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you. Okay, so
it was fun.
Try to get the Star Trek technology working. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming and checking out the show tonight. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you liked it. And I'll try to keep them coming. Just keep them coming and everything. So you all have a good night. Thank you.